Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and I am also the founder of MOT Media and co-host of MOT Today, which airs every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we also got MOT Sports, which is every Saturday. And be sure, for times like these, to subscribe to all of the channels. It's under MOT Media is where you can find us pretty much everywhere, because today until the 25th we are no longer allowed to go on TikTok lives. And so this is why I am not on TikTok at the moment. So you will be hearing less. You actually won't be dealing with any comments probably or any questions, but that doesn't matter. We keep the show going, and there's a few things that I wanted to touch on today for the show. One of the first things that I wanted to touch on actually was not on the agenda, quote unquote, but it was something that was left over from yesterday that did not get covered. And so this article is from New York Post, and I will share it with everybody except for those. I'm trying out Caffeine. This is this new live streaming platform. See how this goes. So everybody that's on Caffeine, which is nobody at the moment, you'll just have to listen to this, and all the listeners will just have to listen because you can't see it. So it's U.S. Army teaching critical race theory to West Point cadets report. So the article continues to say the U.S. Army has introduced critical race theory to West Point cadets. New document shows, according to Fox News Digital, the woke lessons ask cadets about whiteness while encouraging them to apply critical race theory to their answers, according to documents obtained by Judicial Watch and given to Fox News. The more than 600 documents were only handed over to Judicial Watch after the conservative organization sued the Department of Defense. Our military is under attack from within, said President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fenton. These documents show racist, anti-American CRT propaganda is being used to try to radicalize our raising generation of Army leadership in West Point. And this is 100% true, which most people have been unaware of for a long time. But then there's also the fact that the Navy is making sure that we are inclusive with quote-unquote homosexuals. So I'm trying to find the article right now. I wasn't ready actually for this article to be brought up, but this is something that they are really pushing in the military. I mean, as I've covered before in a previous live stream, they attempted. Well, they didn't attempt. The Marines rather had supported LGBT in the episode that I titled "The Military Goes Gay," and that's because the Marines were in active support of the LGBT movement on their Twitter page, and they received a lot of criticism for that. Now, I think that this is going to be a continuing issue as we continuously regress into insanity, because we're not progressing at all. People like to paint this as progression, that we're accepting everybody for who they are, but it's actually regression, and it actually destroys society, as I've touched on many times. I mean, you can't build families with homosexual relationships, and you need families in order to build societies. And so if you want a society, the less homos, the better. Now, I'm not saying go out and do anything to them. I'm just merely stating the facts that on a biological level, you do need families, heterosexuals, to reproduce and create the society by and large. And that's where the values are going to come from, is the family. But this has been the real, as I've stated multiple times, nuclear war that's taking place is the attack on the nuclear family. And I heard something very interesting the other day from a podcast that I was listening to by Owen Benjamin. He had a guest on, Tyler Goldstein, and I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to physics. I know a little bit of the basics, as do most rather. But he had made the connection of um, protons and neutrons being feminine and masculine. He determined that the neutron was negative and the proton was masculine. So the neutron being feminine is because it's grounds, and the proton is the opposite. So if you look at the actual sexual dynamic between men and women, you see that that is true. The woman has the grounding force, and the man is mostly a live wire, has a lot of energy, ready to conquer, but he needs something to be grounded. And so, essentially, what we're doing in our society is we're removing that live wire, that energy, and making everything feminine, and then relying on the government to be that live wire and taking control of everything. And not only the government, but every institution is essentially becoming that. This is what we see in the Western world, and it's because we have fallen away from our traditional religious beliefs, whether you're spiritual or not. It is hard to ignore the fact that we are humans, that is, spiritual beings. We require some sort of religion, some sort of belief in a higher power to not only extract meaning from life, but to build cohesive societies. This is a necessary tenet to civilization. It must exist. If not, then civilization doesn't exist, because it begins to crumble because it's looking for something to worship. And we're seeing that right now, or especially during the whole cough and sniffle debacle, the unicorn, as we call it here, where we started deifying doctors. But we've seen it a lot before that too with academia, right? Because in academia, we have deified scientists, professors, anybody with a lab coat, and anybody with a college degree, especially if it's a PhD. That is really, really looked upon in a favorable way in our society, and they're looked at as the fountain of fountain of truth, if you will, and we simply look for them to guidance. But that is not a good thing to do, because they get corrupted over time, just like any institution. And so, this whole agenda of CTR and the Pride Month is definitely aimed at destabilizing the West, not stabilizing it. If you look at it, why is mental health going up? I mean, we say that mental health is now going up because we no longer stigmatize it. That sounds really dumb to me. I think mental health is going up because people are looking at it as a sign of virtue, and people are looking at it as a way to excuse their poor behavior, whether it be socially, whether it be rudeness, whether it be something in their own life. It's a scapegoat. It's the perfect scapegoat people can use. And look back far enough in time, or you just go back, or you just travel to a quote unquote third world country, ask them what mental health issues they have. And I guarantee you, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Depression? What is that? I mean, the suicide rate in those countries are so low compared to the Western world and industrialized civilizations. Additionally, women are having a much more difficult time in the societies that we've created because they're so anti-woman, despite the fact that we believe we are a feminist culture. We are not. We are anti-women. We hate women in this culture the way that we are simply forcing them out into the work field, essentially, and telling them that being a stay-at-home mom is not the end goal. It shouldn't be your end goal, because you can do everything a man can do, but a man can't do everything a woman can do. But just know that, women are better than men, and they can have a successful career, and they can also be excellent mothers. That's what society is portraying today, and it's totally backwards. And so everything that I'm saying here is tied in together because CTR or CRT rather is affecting the European people, which are over here in America, which are the true Americans. The European Americans or the Americans are those that are European as we know it, and so it's aimed at them. It's aimed at destabilizing the core culture, the real nation of America. It's meant to split that apart and then put foreigners and other races above that. And so it's demoralizing. And then you have the LGBTQ movement, which is essentially a population control movement and a mental health movement. And then you have feminism, which ties into this as well, which is attacking the women. So all these things, you know, I can't think of what the fourth horseman would be, but this would be something like the three horsemen of the apocalypse, if you will, to the West. There has to be a fourth one. I don't know what it is. Maybe debt. Maybe debt is the fourth one. I don't know. But those are definitely three things that we are seeing in our country right now. And that's the reason why our country is failing by and large, is because morality is gone. It's gone out the window entirely. And we think that we can do whatever we want and there's no repercussions for that, when in reality that isn't true. We all know that that is a fallacy. And so we are simply walking around blind right now, looking for guidance from perverted leaders in the West, right? If we look at countries like Russia and China, their population is far better off than our population. They don't allow these kind of things that we have over here. For instance, Saudi Arabia is going around and removing everything that has a rainbow flag because they say that it is associated with the GAYs. I don't know how much I can say here still on YouTube without getting kicked off. And that could be detrimental to the children. And so the reason why they're no longer allowing the rainbow flags during this month is because of the message it will send to children and that it will harm children. So Saudi Arabia understands it on that front. And China understands the importance of having a cohesive culture, an actual nation, which is why they don't allow blacks on movie posters over there. They remove them. And it's also why this new Lightyear movie that came out, or something like that, Buzz Lightyear, I don't know, where two men were kissing. In China, they totally removed that scene. They totally removed that scene because they're not promoting it. And I also found out the other day that in China, when they use TikTok, they're promoting masculine activities for men, whether it's hardworking men, whether it's a father, whether it's having children, whether it's having families, etc. They promote that in their TikTok algorithm. Whereas here, they promote degeneracy. They specifically cater towards degeneracy, which is why we have women practically naked and shaking themselves and basically giving everything away to anybody with eyes that's willing to give them attention. You know, it's promoting that, which is very interesting. And so China's attacking it from a totally different way. They're mostly using soft power. There's a difference between hard power and soft power, and China has been known to utilize their soft power very, very well. They do this in Africa a lot because they have bought a lot of the cable companies over there, actually installed cable over there. And so they have Chinese networks on their cables. And so they have a tool of soft power. And soft power is using your influence, your money, etc., as opposed to your military force, which would be hard power. And China's been doing that in Africa for a while. And China's also doing that here in America, as we see with TikTok and also other Hollywood productions and in the government. So as Tom Fedden, or however you pronounce his name at Judicial Watch, have rightly stated, that our military is under attack from within. It is from groups that are native to America, are foreigners outside of America, whether they be big nose, small hat individuals or other wealthy individuals. They are definitely influencing from within. But we also need to recognize that China has been doing this for quite some time. As the FBI has stated numerous times, China is the greatest threat to America, but I wouldn't say in a militarily way. It would be more so in a influential way, in a societal way, and how they can shift consciousness because of their control over a lot of the electronics that we have currently. Sorry, my camera keeps moving. I have it in a horrible spot right now. It's not really staying stable. Maybe my camera's affected by the LGBTQ movement and it's becoming disabled. Um, yeah, and then we have stupid stuff. Like I just thought about that because I said disabled as opposed to uh, destabled. Lizzo, I'm sure everybody knows about Lizzo, right? That fat chick that is trying to make everything really cool about being fat when it's really bad to be fat. I mean, I've mentioned before that it's healthy to have a little fat and shows signs of fertility, but to be morbidly obese, that just shows that you eat too many Twinkies and you might die of a heart attack at 34. Um, but she is apparently being persecuted by the media because she said spaz, and I have no clue how that's a derogatory term whatsoever. But apparently, it's offensive to people that are able, that are not disabled, that are the opposite of disabled. It's an ableist term. It's totally insane. It's totally insane. And also, the other day, on a total side note, my wife and I we went to Lowe's. I believe it was Lowe's to go look for some blinds, and we noticed that there were like 8 handicap parking spots, and everybody else had to park like further down. And I was like, why? And they even had another special parking lot for maybe it wasn't like necessarily special, but it was for curbside pickup. And I want to say there was something else, but I was looking at that, and I told my wife, I was like, why aren't there more signs like that for pregnant women, expecting mothers? That would be more appropriate than all those damn handicap signs, because most people that are handicapped do it to themselves. Fact. Nobody wants to really talk about that, but you get your leg cut off because you had one too many honey buns, and now you have type 2 diabetes and you don't want to give up your carbs and sugar, and now everybody has to cater to you because of your poor life decisions, or you smoked one too many cigarettes for one too many years, and now you are now you have to sit at the front because you're a special boy and you're disabled. So it's pretty sad. We should have it the other way around. It would be an incentive for a lot of people who give themselves these disabilities by having them go all the way to the back. Like having designated parking spots for handicaps all the way in the back, all the way in the far back. And if they take another parking spot for an abled individual, they will be ticketed. The same way that an abled individual will be ticketed for taking a handicap spot. But they have to go all the way to the back. So if you see somebody getting out of the wheelchair and they park in an abled parking lot, in a parking spot rather, $100 ticket right away. And they no longer get free wheelchairs from the state. That's the new rule. So if I'm president, that's what I'm enacting. That's the first thing that I'll be enacting is all handicapped individuals will have parking spots, mandatory parking spots, enforced parking spots legally in the rear of the parking lot. Expected mothers will get special treatment, first parking spots in every parking lot. And then everything in between is fair game for those of us that are able. For those of us that are able, it's fair game. I'm kind of joking, but it is. But a lot of handicapped individuals do it to themselves. They really do. Yes, some people are born that way. I have a niece who has spina bifida. So yes, some people are born that way, but it's definitely not the norm. Venezuela from that episode in Parks and Rec. My wife and I just wrote my wife and I, my page. She just brought over a notebook saying that I sound like that guy from Venezuela from Parks and Rec, where he's like, "Oh, you take ham, we cut off ham. Oh, you do this, no food for you." So yeah, that's what's that? Right to jail. Right to jail. You handicap and you park an able parking spot, right to jail. Right to jail. We remove wheelchair while you in jail. So then you have to deal with that. But yeah. So anyway, we've just gotten way too soft as a nation. A lot of people can't take these things as jokes. They'll get super offended. I know that I offend people with my political beliefs, my comments such as this, my beliefs on society and how it should be ran. I mean, first off, we are so like guys. We are in such a place. I'm gonna get off this handicap rant because I'm afraid that it might get me banned off of YouTube, and we're already suspended on TikTok. So, until the 24th at like 23:55. So that's like basically midnight. So the 25th is what I've been saying. But we're working on building another account, the MOT Media account, which I actually gained like over 200 followers today. I thought that I was going to hit virality today and we would get 1,000 followers and I'd be able to do it. But you know what? We're going to get 1,000 followers on that page before the 25th. And I'm going to show TikTok what's up. You can't stop us. I'm going to keep making accounts, keep getting them to 1,000 and keep growing them. Every time you try to stop us, we can't be stopped. We can't be stopped. Even right now, look at this. Look at this energy I'm bringing. I got one viewer on YouTube. I mean, come on. This is a hell of a show here. We're bringing good content. I'm speaking truth. And TikTok, on TikTok, we usually have, it hovers between right around 20 and 100 for about the 2 to 3 hours that we have it. And it's active conversations the whole time. Comment sections blowing up. We have guests on all the time. And TikTok's trying to stop us, but we won't let them stop us at all. We won't. At first, they wanted to permanently ban us from MOT News from ever doing live streams. And I was like, whoa, you better rescind that right now. Because I have a particular set of skills and I will find you. And they listened. Needless to say. Lee from TikTok responded to me personally saying, well, we'll reverse your ban permanently, but we'll give you a temporary ban instead because you showed adult nudity and had sexual activities in your live stream, which is completely false. So they're still lying. They still be lying, but that's okay. We just keep going. We don't stop. I don't stop. That's what you got to do. That's the mindset you have to have. Just got to keep moving. Just like we're going to keep moving along with our topics here because we got a few other things to cover before we call it a night. So one of the things that I do want to talk about here is the Night of Rage. So it is an event that is anticipated to take place in Washington, D.C. after Roe v. Wade is overturned, which is the thinking that Roe v. Wade will be overturned because of the leaked document from the Supreme Court that showed that there was a majority of Supreme Court justices that wanted to overturn it. And so this group that's called Jane's Revenge has been taking credit for terrorizing pregnancy centers across the country in Wisconsin and other places as well, burning them, vandalizing them, putting graffiti on them. Well, they're allegedly the group behind handing out these flyers. And on these flyers, it says that if there's no safe abortion, then you aren't safe either. Let me put this back up. So I got it right here so you can see the article. So it says, any day now, likely Thursday, the Supreme Court could publish its final decision on whether or not to overturn Roe v. Wade. If the 9 justices overturn the court case, the decision to ban abortion will become a state matter. It would spur demonstrations as distributing flyers have already begun appearing across Washington, D.C., warning about riots if the case is overturned. And so right here, you can see the flyer. For those of you that can't see it, it says D.C. call to action, Night of Rage. The night the Supreme Court of the United States overturns Roe v. Wade, hit the streets. You said you'd riot. To our oppressors, if abortions aren't safe, you're not either. So that's like an open threat. That's a call to violence. Everybody wants to talk about Republicans and right-wingers being violent in their speech. But what about that? I mean, that's a literal call to action right there, to be violent and cause harm. And we also had some crazy lunatic, whether or not it was staged or not, I don't know that it was staged, come at Justice Brett Kavanaugh's house attempting to assassinate him. And then before that, you had an individual who killed a judge. And he said that he had a list of other people that he was going to kill that were high up political officials and other judges. So who knows really what's going to take place? I mean, maybe there will be some false flag event where a Supreme Court justice is allegedly killed, and maybe it isn't a false flag event. But I don't know, because I don't know the authenticity of Jane's Revenge, this group that's taking credit for everything. Because think about it, there's a lot of groups, especially Islamic groups, as we saw from what the media says. I don't know how true this is either, what I'm about to say. So I'm taking what the media has said at face value in regards to this, and that is there's been a lot of Islamic groups who have claimed acts of terror, but it actually wasn't from them. But they just wanted to get notoriety and be known. Maybe Jane's Revenge is doing something similar, or maybe Jane's Revenge is a government-controlled organization. I don't know. I really don't know. It could be totally organic, but it seems to me that it's quite asinine somebody would riot to kill babies. It just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. I know that people are really deranged and sick, but I can't help but just think that there is some alternative motive behind this, or not alternative motive, but a secret hand, an invisible hand behind this that nobody's seeing. And not in a spiritual way. I mean, yeah, there is a spiritual, invisible hand behind this, but more so a shadowy government type figure leading this cause to bring down this idea, to intimidate people into submission with this idea. So that's one thing that's going on. So I don't know. We'll have to look into Jane's Revenge a little bit more. But it's also very weird that, Roe v. Wade, the woman who went along with it, she admitted that she lied about the rape and that she regretted supporting abortion and thought it was a horrible thing, a wrong thing to do. And then she totally changed her life. She did a 180 and tried to repeal it at the end of her life. But nobody ever wants to talk about that. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. And so we just have to have this medical tyranny that we see, or not just medical tyranny, we just have to have this tyranny in general, which is also trickling over into the medical field, as we see here in California. California is plotting to punish medical dissent. So there is a senator, his name is, I believe it's Richard Pan. He looks like a Chinese dude. The bill is sponsored by him, and it looks like he's been in pharma's back pocket for years and the source of much legislative health policy mischief. The author of this article says, in my home state, would give the medical board the authority to punish any physicians who challenge the safety and efficacy of the unicorn jabs. So basically, it would put anybody in jeopardy of who's a physician of losing their medical license for questioning what's going on with the jab. And so this is just going to keep spiraling down, I think, as far as society by and large. However, there will be a subset of society who is relatively unscathed by this and actually ends up thriving. And we're hoping that our community is going to be a part of that. I know for a fact, I don't know for a fact, I pray to God that, he will show mercy on my family and I as these hard times roll around. But we've been preparing for quite some time for what we think is going to come as far as the collapse of society. And with the collapse of society, you have to understand, I'm not talking about like a Mad Max scenario. I'm just saying that things are going to get crazier and more unsafe, and police are going to be less resourceful and less able to do their jobs and less willing to do their jobs because of the amount of insanity. I mean, in Wisconsin, some of the largest cities over there are seeing a spike of homicides up to 25%. And this isn't really being talked about, and there's a bunch of other big cities that are seeing these large spikes right now. And I think it's only going to increase, especially as people have harder times getting food. Look at right now with the baby formula shortage, which I actually think the baby formula shortage is a form of is a blessing in disguise in a way, because it shows it gives people the opportunity to look outside what they think is traditional and actually find what the traditional method of feeding your child is, aside from breastfeeding, whether it be going back to goat milk, right? Or cow milk, and making your own formula, because our ancestors had lived a long time way before baby formula. But I'm using this example because there's a lot of people who would allow their babies to go without, or steal from others to feed their babies, or kill, if you will, for their babies, to make sure that they would have their formula. There's going to be a lot of that, I think, going on, especially as prices rise and the moral fiber of society, particularly the West society, is shredded to bits. I mean, we already basically have nothing as far as morality goes. People are afraid to speak up for what they believe in because they're afraid to lose a dollar bill. Little do they know there's many ways to make a dollar bill. And also, you don't need a dollar bill to live. I made this statement many times. You just need to have the right connections and the desire to work hard, and then you will be rewarded for what you do. You can get food for free. I get food for free twice a week, pretty much. Twice a week, I get food for free at a farm that I help out at. And it's empowering. It shows you that there's other ways to make ends meet without just money. And so it makes you less dependent on money. Now, I do like money. Money is a good thing for convenience and in the society we live in. So I'm not discouraging anybody from making money. I encourage people to try and make money. I'm a business owner myself. I think that making money is a very, very, very good thing to do if you live in a society as we live in right now. But just know you don't actually need money to live, and you can get things that you need to live without money. So those are important things to recognize as we enter this chaotic time. As you know, I think it was back in like 2009 when I said that the most valuable things are going to be hard assets, are going to be like land, and family. Those are going to be the most valuable things in the future. And right now, what are we seeing? Land and family are the most valuable things to have, because so many people are facing social isolation, and social isolation is like a huge killer that nobody really wants to talk about. I mean, one of the factors in somebody living over 100 years is having a loving family, having somebody, at least one person that they can depend on. And so social isolation causes many issues. And it's a huge problem right now that we're not even addressing. And it's going to keep growing, especially as people become more LGBTQ, more prideful, if you will, and not having children. And our population, slowly, the older populations have nobody to care for them, and they're left all alone. And then you're going to have these Israeli companies coming in, making these robots specifically for elderly people, which they're doing right now in New York. Yeah, they're doing that in New York right now, where they have a robot company based out of Israel designing these machines to assist and support and care for the elderly. And on this point, I heard something very interesting today, and it's so obvious. Now, it's in regards to AI. So we're talking about robots. That AI is going to be targeting lonely individuals mostly. Lonely individuals, which makes total sense because, when I'm scrolling on TikTok, at times I see this app. It's called Replica, I believe, and it's of a virtual, ran by artificial intelligence companion you can have. You can have legitimate conversations with it. And who would that be aimed at? It wouldn't be aimed. I don't know why it's showing it to me, because I don't need a digital companion. I have friends in real life. I have a family in real life. I have people around me that I love in real life. I'm not lonely in the slightest as far as that goes. But a lot of individuals are lonely. And so AI will fill that void for them, and these robots will fill that void for them. It actually reminds me of a video game that I played called Detroit Human or Human Detroit, something along those lines, where you play from the perspective of a artificial intelligence, a robot. And I think that you can be a human at times as well. But ultimately, you're playing from the perspective as a silicon-based robot. And in Detroit, people are rioting. They're not rioting, but they're um, um, protesting the replacement of human labor for robotic labor. And in one of the scenes, one of the characters is a companion to an older individual. He's a wealthy, successful man who's lived a very, fruitful life aside from having children, I think. And now he just has this robot helping him, taking care of him. And the game's much more than that. But anyway, it reminds me of that particular part in the game where you see the relationship between the robot and the old man. I think that we're going to be seeing more of that as time goes on. So this isn't me even saying that robots and artificial intelligence are a bad thing. They do serve a purpose, but they can also be used nefariously. And if you're in support of, whether you know it or not, yeah, I'm not sure if you guys can make the connection, but if you're in support of this whole pride thing and overpopulation, then you're in support of getting rid of human interaction for robots and filling the void through robots. So this is why it's very important to have kids, because I'd rather have my kids take care of me than some robot that can probably be hijacked by some sophisticated government hacker and off me, if you know what I mean. I mean, look at what's happening to some of Tesla's cars, right? There's been people who have died because they couldn't get out of Tesla cars when they caught on fire. So, I think that's only going to get more obvious as time goes on. And now China is banning, I think, the sale of Tesla cars or some Tesla cars over fears of spying and probably other stuff too that we just don't know about, which is kind of funny because Elon Musk just moved a plant over in China, but now they're banning some of the production or some of the cars being sold there in China. So that's quite telling. Now, let's see what else we got going on here, because there's a couple other articles. I think one or two more that I want to touch on before we end the stream. I think it's just this one right here, but let me just make sure. Yeah, it looks like that is the only one that we have left. And so it is of the Mexican president. And it just shows you how America has just lost its prominency on the world stage. So Mexican president Assange, best journalist of our time, his persecution, embarrassment for the world. And then he says well, then the article goes on to say Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, I don't know how you pronounce it, said he'll ask Joe Biden to evaluate the case against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, saying it's an embarrassment for the whole world that he's treated worse than a criminal for doing journalism. Julian Assange is the best journalist of our time in the world, and he has been treated very unfairly, worse than a criminal. This is an embarrassment to the world, the president said on Tuesday. Assange is awaiting extradition to the U.S. from the Belmarsh prison in London, England, where he'll face espionage charges for exposing classified military documents revealing a slew of wrongdoing by the U.S. government during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And freedoms. Are we going to remove the Statue of Liberty from New York? This is what the Mexican president said as well. And then he also said that, yes, I am going to ask Joe Biden to address the case of the founder of WikiLeaks. Humanism must prevail. Mexico opens the door to Julian Assange in case it is decided to release him. After exposing, he was charged with war crimes, whatever, and he can face up to 175 years in prison. But it just shows you how the United States is losing its power. Everybody's calling the United States bluff. And it is, maybe a good thing to see, maybe not a good thing to see. I do love the American vibe, the American nation. I don't like our government so much. I get the government. I know why they're there. And I understand that we are uh, responsible for the government we have in some way, shape, or form. But the fact that the Mexican president can say these things and be like, yo, I can talk Joe Biden and I can talk Joe Biden potentially out of punishing what they think to be a spy. It's insane that, 50 years ago, that would never be the case. And also, 50 years ago, it would never be the case with the Mexican president's like, oh, no, we're not going to go over to America because you're not allowing some of our other friends over there, like Venezuela, Cuba, etc. If you're not going to allow them over there, then we're not going to go over there for the summit. And so it's just showing you the shift in power entirely, because China and Russia are basically gaining more influence over the world than we are. And they're way more nationalistic, which is a good thing by and large. And America and the West is more so globalist, and they are humanists. That's the one thing that I would disagree with. Humanism is not a good thing uh, because then you're just everything becomes relative if you have a humanist society. You can have no objective reality because you're just going off of what humans, their perception of the world and their belief systems. And it's going to change over time because without something higher than humans to worship, we're going to be using that belief energy that we naturally have and putting it on something, which is why we see materialism at an all-time high, why we, as I mentioned at the top of the show, deifying medical professionals, scientists, all academic, all people in academics, all that stuff. We're praising them for that reason. So we just got to remain diligent rather, and be sure that we're working on ourselves. Because one thing that I do like to think about is the fact that when in the Bible, whether you're religious or not, you can take a lot of value from this. When a prophet would go to a town to warn them of their destruction, he would never say, overthrow the government. He would never say that. He would never say, oh, you need to get into politics and change things. You need to X, Y, and Z regarding the macro structure. No, it was always repent, ask for forgiveness and repent. It was pointing at the individual to do that. And if one family even did that, God saved him. We saw that in Sodom and Gomorrah with Lot's family. We saw that with Moses' family during the flood. That's the power of faith in God. So, with that being said, it's important that you focus on your own life and how you can become less dependent upon this system. Now, we're always, I think, going to be dependent on it in a way because we inevitably create these systems. It's just natural. We do. And then over time, these systems erode. So while we're here, it appears cyclical. It appears like a circle. So, yeah. But that's pretty much all I had for today, guys. This one's going to be much shorter. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to everything MOT Media related. On TikTok, you can find us at MOT News, MOT Today 1, MOT Sports, and MOT Media. So we have a bunch of channels over there backed up, ready to go, because we know once you're spitting the truth, once you're doing what we're doing here, they ain't gonna like it. They're gonna keep trying to take you down. So we just got to keep making accounts. We're gonna show them how good we are at making accounts on TikTok and getting organic followers nonstop, just nonstop. That's what we do, unstoppable. But then on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, MOT Media is where you can find us. So much love, everybody, and peace.